Hello everybody, this is Glenda Winkleman and welcome back to Creative Grandma. I have another craft show favorite. This is a Christmas design or any color you want design. This here I made specifically for Christmas to coordinate with the Christmas dishcloth I made. The center is the same as the Christmas dishcloth, and I thought, well, that would really be cute if I made coasters to match. So this is the coaster. And what I did was I used a red and white where you alternated the colors around the edging to edge the coaster. But then I thought, this is made out of cotton yarn. I thought that would really be cute as a scrubby. So what I did was I took and made two coasters. I put them together, wrong sides together, and made it double thick. And I added this beautiful little chain one border around, and I made it into a scrubby. So you get two patterns out of one. Very nice. And then I also made one sample. This is in fall colors, and if you didn't want to use the two strands to alternate the colors, if you're using a variegated yarn, like if you get the Christmas variegated or the fall like I have here, you can just single crochet around and not use the white. You can just use the solid color, and that's an easier way for the beginners to do this pattern. Now this is a single, this is not the scrubby. I just made this with one side to show you the example, but you can also put that edging around the coaster if you want and make the coasters like that. But I was kind of trying to make them different, so if you're setting up at craft shows, these really pop with the little peppermint twist is what I call it. Very, very cute. So this is the coasters, and then this is the dish scrubby. You take the two coasters together and put them together with just an edging stitch through both of the pieces to make that edging, and it joins it as you go. Now this pattern is number 133. You will need one ball of white and one ball of your accent color. Now I used a size H hook on these, so these are made with a size H hook 8, H8, or a 5mm hook. So you're going to need to chain 4. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied here looking at my notes. So to start the coaster, we'll start with the coaster, and you're going to take your main color of white and you're going to chain 4. So go ahead and get your chain 4 ready, and I'll be right back and we'll get this project started. So we have our chain 4 and we're ready to start round 1. So to start the round, we need to join these 4 chains to create a ring. So you're going to take your hook and you're going to bring it over to the first chain that you made. So skip those 3 chain and insert your hook into that last chain. Yarn over the hook and pull it through both loops. This creates your ring. It's a little tight, but it's right there. So we're going to be working in this little hole right here. This piece of yarn here, what I do with that is I just carry it around my work and I work my stitches right over it. So we're going to start round 1 with a chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now this chain 4 acts as the first 2 chain acts as the first half double crochet, and then you have your chain 2. So now we need to work a half double crochet in the ring and a chain 2 8 times. So to make a half double crochet, yarn over the hook, insert it into the center of that ring and through to the back, yarn over the hook, pull it through the center of your ring, yarn over the hook, and pull it through all loops on your hook. So this is your beginning chain 4. The first 2 is your first half double crochet, then your chain 2. And like I said, the instructions say work a half double crochet in the ring and chain 2. 1, 2, and we need to do that 8 times. So let me show you one more time. Yarn over the hook, insert it into the center of that ring from the front to the back, yarn over the hook and pull it through the center of that ring, yarn, you should have 3 loops on your hook at this point, yarn over the hook and pull it through all 3 loops on your hook. Whoops. Sometimes with this cotton yarn, it's the weave is kind of loose, so sometimes your hook will go through that and separate it, so just pull your hook out and make sure you don't split your yarn. We're going to chain 2. So yarn over the hook, insert it into the center of that ring, front to back, yarn over the hook, pull it through that ring, 3 loops on hook, yarn over the hook and pull it through all 3 loops on the hook, and you're going to chain 2. So let's go ahead and count. This is our beginning chain 4. We needed to do a half double crochet, chain 2 8 times. We've done it 3 times so far, so go ahead and do it 5 more times, and I'll meet at the end of your 8th. You should have a total of 8, and I'll meet you at the end of round 1 and show you how to finish your round. So I'm at the end of round 1, and this is what your work should look like. This is your beginning chain 4, which counts as your first half double crochet plus a chain 2, and then you needed to work a half double crochet, chain 2 8 times around the ring. So you start here at the second one, and that's 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So you should end with your 8th stitch and a chain 2. So to join, you're going to insert your hook into the second chain of the beginning chain 4. So just count up 1 2, insert your hook into that second chain, yarn over the hook and pull through all loops on your hook. You just slip stitched around 1 together. So now I'm going to fasten off my round. I forgot my scissors, so I'll have to use these big giant ones just for this one till I jump up and grab some scissors. Okay, so I'm going to fasten off my work. What I do is I just put my yarn over twice, and well, I cut that a little too short, and I pull it through. I grab this end and I just pull, you just pull down and it tightens it into a knot. And then what I do is I just pull this back and work my stitches over it. So for right now, I'm going to turn this over on the back. These are awful big scissors, the pinking shears. I'm going to just cut that off. Just make sure you don't go down into your stitches. So now we're going to start row 2. So you're going to need to get your accent color. I'm going to go grab mine and get a pair of scissors, and I'll be right back. Okay, I have my accent color, and for round 2 we're going to be working half double crochet bobble stitches. So don't let that scare you if you're a new crocheter. I'm going to walk you step by step through it. Now my coaster here I'm making with green and white. This might show up really dark. It is green. What I do is I just, like I said, carry my thread right across there, and as you're working your stitches, I work my stitches right over this both, and it kind of like weaves it in. Then all you have to do is just cut your end off the back. So here's my new color, and I leave a little bit hang, and I'll be carrying this right along with the other color. So I just put it like so, and then I insert my hook. You're going to insert your hook in any of the chain 2 spaces, so it doesn't matter which one. I'm just starting in the beginning one. So insert your hook, grab that new strand of yarn, and just pull it up with your hook to form a loop. So we're going to begin, and it says work 1 3 half double crochet bobble. So what it means is you're going to work 1 stitch, but it's going to have 3 half double crochet in that bobble stitch. So to work the first one, we're going to chain 1, which this creates, I guess, half of the first half double crochet, because chain 2 equals a half double crochet, but we're only working half a stitch at this point. So the chain 1 is classified as the first of the 3 when you're beginning your round. So now you're going to put the yarn over your hook, insert it into that same beginning chain 2 space, front to back, yarn over the hook, and pull it through that space. So you're going to have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over the hook, you're going to insert it into that same chain 2 space, front to back, yarn over the hook, and pull it through that space. So now you have a total of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 loops on your hook. Yarn over, you're going to pull it through all loops on your hook, and my yarn split there, I got it, and that is your first bobble stitch. Very, very easy to do. Just take your time. If you have to practice a little bit to do that stitch, that's fine as well. Okay, so we did our bobble stitch. Now we're going to chain 2. So 1, 2, and what we're going to do is in each one of these chain 2 spaces we're going to work a bobble stitch, then chain 2, bobble stitch in that next chain 2 space, then you're going to chain 2, then you're going to work a bobble stitch in the next chain 2 space. So let's work a few together. So these will be made a little differently because you're going to put the yarn over the hook instead of chaining 1 for that first stitch. So this one is made that way only for the first one because you're beginning the round. So yarn over the hook, insert it into the next chain 2 space, front to back, and work right over those little ends if you're carrying your ends across the back. Yarn over the hook and pull it through that space. You should have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over the hook, bring it to the front, go in through that same chain 2 space, front to back, yarn over the hook, and pull it through that chain 2 space. My stitches are kind of dark. We now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on the hook. We need that third half double crochet stitch, so yarn over the hook, insert it front to back in that same chain 2 space, yarn over the hook, and pull it through that space. You should now have 7 loops on your hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. They're pretty tight together, so just pull them apart to count them until you get used to doing this stitch. So now since you have 7 loops on your hook, you're going to put the yarn over your hook and pull through all loops on your hook. You just created your next bobble stitch. So chain 2. I'll show you one more time. We're going into the next chain 2 space. So yarn over the hook, insert front to back through that chain 2 space, yarn over the hook, and pull it through. 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over the hook, insert it front to back in that same chain 2 space, yarn over the hook, and pull it through that space. You now have 5 loops on your hook. Pulling them apart a little bit so you can see them better. One more time, yarn over the hook, insert it into that same chain 2 space, front to back, yarn over the hook, and pull it through that stitch. You should now have 7 loops on your hook. 1, 2, 3, there's 4, 5, 6, and 7. They're really tight when you do this, so just pull them apart if you lost count and you're not sure. 7 loops on your hook, yarn over the hook, pull it through all loops on your hook, all 7 loops. And again, my hook got caught in that yarn. There, you just made another bobble stitch. You're going to chain 2, and you're going to continue working that bobble stitch. So work your bobble stitch, chain 2, bobble stitch in your next chain 2 space, then chain 2 between them. My sun's coming around the window and it's changing my lighting, so I'm sorry about that if that got a little dark on you. So go ahead and work that around in the same manner you did this. Work your last bobble stitch. Let me turn this around. You'll work your last bobble stitch in that last chain 2 space, chain 2, and I will meet you here to show you how to finish round 2. You're over at the end of round 2 and you just worked your last half double crochet bobble stitch in this last chain 2 space, and then you ended with the chain 2. So now we're going to join our round. So you're going to come over and you're going to skip this last stitch. You're going to come over and you'll see all these stitches are together and there's this big wide stitch here. You do not want to go in there. You want to come over here, and if you look, there's just a real small opening. Let me get the camera refocused. You're going to skip this stitch and there's just a small opening here on this side of the stitch. So skip this part and insert your hook in that spot right there on that side of the stitch. I hope you can see it. There's a hole right there. You're going to insert your hook into that space, that stitch, yarn over the hook and pull it through the stitch and pull it through the loop on your hook. You just joined round 2 together, and this may be, you're just going to start getting a little bit of a bowl shape. That's going to be normal because when you do your next round, it's going to stretch that. So that's normal. So now I'm just going to fasten off my work. And I pull that down into a knot. And what I do is I flip this over. Now, what I do is when I see the green behind the white, I do not like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this right back out of there. And what I do is later I'll come back and I'll take a yarn needle and I'll thread this and I'll weave this up into the green because I do not like my green showing on the white. So that's why I pulled that out. You'll weave that up there through there when you're finished and you're done with your coaster. Okay, so now we're going to join our white, and again I just pull this thread right over here and I work right across it. I work right around this thread and in this space. So take your hook and you're going to insert it in that first chain 2 space. I'm going to grab my white, and again I leave an end about that long, and then I come back and weave it in or just cut it off depending on if I can cover it with the stitches. So I just lay it there with the green on the back of my work and I pull that new color through that chain 2 space just so you have a loop. Okay, so round 3 is a pretty easy round. The first chain 2 space is worked differently than the rest because we have to make our first double crochet. So we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. That acts as our first double crochet of the round. I'm sorry, I hope I wasn't saying row. I do that sometimes. So for this pattern, we're going to work 5 double crochet in each one of these chain 2 spaces around. So your first double crochet of the set of 5 is your chain 3, which counts as that first stitch. So now we're going to work 4 more double crochet in the same chain 2 space. So yarn over the hook, insert it into that same beginning chain 2 space, front to back, yarn over the hook, and pull it through that space. 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over the hook, pull it through 2 loops only, yarn over the hook, and pull it through 2 loops. So we need a total of 5. We have 2. We need to work 3 more. Yarn over the hook, insert it into that same chain 2 space, yarn over the hook, and pull it through that chain 2 space. 3 loops on hook. Yarn over the hook, pull it through 2 loops only. Yarn over the hook and pull it through 2 loops. You now have 3 double crochet. We need 5, so we're going to work 2 more. Yarn over the hook, insert it into that same chain 2 space. Yarn over the hook and pull it through the space. Yarn over the hook and pull it through 2 loops only. Yarn over the hook and pull it through 2 loops. We now have 4 of the 5 double crochet we need. Yarn over the hook, insert it into that same chain 2 space front to back. Yarn over the hook and pull it through that chain 2 space. You now have 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over the hook, pull it through 2 loops only. Yarn over the hook and pull it through 2 loops. So now we have our first set of 5 double crochet. The beginning chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and then we have 4 more for a total of 5. So what you're going to do for this round is, like I said, I keep working my stitches over this until you think it's covered enough. I'll probably work 2 more chain 2 spaces and then let it go and then trim it when I flip it. So go ahead and we're going to work 5 double crochet into this next chain 2 space. So yarn over the hook and let's work our first double crochet. There's 1. Yarn over the hook, insert it into that same chain 2 space, and we're going to work our second double crochet. Yarn over the hook, insert it into that same chain 2 space, and work your third double crochet. Yarn over the hook, insert it into that same chain 2 space, yarn over the hook, and pull it through the stitch. 3 loops on hook. Yarn over the hook and pull it through 2 loops only. Yarn over the hook and pull it through 2 loops. We now have 4 double crochet. We need 5. So yarn over the hook, insert it into that same chain 2 space, and work your 5th and final double crochet in that space. And that is your repeat that you will be repeating around. 5 double crochet in each one of your chain 2 spaces around. Work your last 5 double crochet here in this last chain 2 space, and I will meet you at the end to show you how to join. I'm over at the end of round 3, and you just worked 5 double crochet in each chain 2 space between your bobble stitches. So this is what your work should look like on the front. This is what your work should look like on the back. Now this one I'm not going to trim right now because I'm going to come back around and weave this up and underneath these white stitches so you don't see the green. However, I am going to come over here and take my hook out for 1 second because I don't like this hanging when I'm working, so I just nip that off, and you can see that the stitches are underneath. You can't even see them because I worked over those ends. Okay. So now I'm going to put my hook back in. We're going to join our round. So you're going to count up to the 3rd chain of this beginning chain 3. So count 1, 2, and that's your 3rd chain. So you can see the first one here, 2, and 3. Insert into that 3rd chain. Yarn over the hook and pull it through all loops in your hook. You just joined round 3. So now for round 4, you're going to do, I don't want to say it, if you've never crocheted before, it's a beautiful way to end the coaster, but it's just a little tedious of how you have to go really, really slow. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using 2 strands of yarn, 1 white and 1 green, but we're going to be using them one at a time. So we're going to work half our stitch in white, and then we're going to pull the green through before we finish the stitch, and then you're going to work half of the green stitch, and then you're going to pull your white back through before you finish the stitch. It's very easy to do. It's just a little more time consuming. I don't want to say, I don't know a good word to use, but the effect of it, it almost looks like a twisting of the yarn. That's where I come up with the peppermint twist. Of course, the red one is why I called it that. So now this is the Dish Scrubby, but the coaster we just end with this, with the twist on it. So let's finish our last round of the coaster. And again, that is where you're going to need both your strands of yarn, and I'll walk you step by step on how to do this last edging on the coaster. So your white's already here, so you do not fasten off your white. You leave that white right there. So we're going to chain 1, and you're going to insert your hook, if you look, into the top of that same beginning starting chain 3. So you come over here. Now, if you look at your work, there's a stitch right here. You're going to go in this space right down here. It's just a little off to the bottom of it, in that top of that chain 3. So make sure you don't go in this stitch, because you need to go in that stitch next. So it's that little tiny hole right here that you're going to go in. So insert your hook. You might have to kind of like pull that back a little to get in there. Insert your hook. You're going to pull yarn over the hook and pull it through the stitch. So now what I do is I'm going to bring my new color through. So I'm going to leave an edge about 3 inches long. I'm just going to let it hang. Just, my hand's in the way. Okay, I'm just going to let that hang behind my work. I put it up against my work like so. I'm just going to grab that green. You're holding both strands together. You're going to grab that green yarn and you're going to pull it through that white stitch. Now your first stitch will be a little loose, and sometimes I do pull, like here's my thread. I'll take my finger and see how right here, let me loosen it up a little. There it's loose. Watch this white thread. You may have to sometimes just pull that a little bit to make sure your tension's nice. You don't want this to be all over the place. You want a nice even tension. Okay, so now I have my green. Like I said, you're going to hold both strands together, but you're only using one at a time. So now we're going to work half of our green stitch. We are going into both loops of each stitch. So insert your hook into underneath both loops of that next stitch right here, right beside that chain 3 space where you started. Just grab the green strand only, grab that green and pull it through the stitch. That's your first half of the stitch. So now you're going to grab your white strand of yarn and you're going to pull it through the 2 green loops on your hook. And if you look, see how it finishes that top of that stitch in green, and then the white is ready for the next stitch. That's why you pull it through. It makes the stitch all the same color. Okay, so let me just show you this a few more times so you get the hang of it. Sometimes your yarn will twist. You just have to stop and kind of like straighten it out like so. So it's straight. It's going to twist. No helping it. Okay, so now you have your white loop on the hook. You're going to come over here and you're going to go under both loops of the next stitch. And whatever color loop is on your hook is the color you're going to grab. We have a white loop. You're going to grab the white yarn, that white strand of yarn. Yarn over the hook and pull it through that stitch. Now we're going to finish the stitch with the green. So grab the green, yarn over the hook, and pull it through the 2 white loops on your hook. And you can see now how doing it in this method, your stitches are the solid color that they're supposed to be. Now, if I did this wrong, now don't do this, I'm just showing you. If you're working across, let's see, if I grab my white by accident and I pull that white through, and then I go to do, I'm trying to look, and then I go to do my next stitch, and you're doing it. Now see how when I did that, it's not the right color. So if this happens, you grab the wrong color. So I have a green loop on my hook, which means I should have had this stitch here should have been green. I hope I explained that right. It's kind of hard to explain. But when you see this, then you did it wrong. So just take that back out. Whoops, I pulled too many out. So I'm going back here. I'm sorry, I'm trying to explain it because if you've never done this before, it's just a little hard to understand. Okay, white loop on hook, insert your hook into the next stitch under both loops. So you have white yarn on your hook, so you grab the white strand of yarn, yarn over the hook, and pull it through your stitch. So now you have your two white. Now you're going to grab your next color, which is green. Take the green yarn over your hook and pull it through the two white loops on your hook. That finishes the stitch, and your green is ready for the next stitch because it's green, white, green, white, green, white around. This is what we're working on here, and that's how we do it. We're working every other stitch in the color. Green loop on hook, insert it into the next stitch, the top of the next stitch. Because you have a green loop on your hook, you're going to grab the green yarn over the hook, and pull it through the stitch. You have two green loops on the hook, so now you need to finish the stitch, and you're going to grab the white. So take the white yarn over your hook and pull it through the two green loops. There you have your green stitch completed, all in green. You have a white loop on your hook. Okay, I'm going to straighten my two strands. You have a white loop on your hook. You're going to insert your hook into that next stitch. You're going to grab your white yarn and you're going to pull it through. So you have two white loops on your hook. You're going to grab the green and you're going to pull your green through. I'm going to show you two more times, and then I'm going to let you go ahead and work around. Green loop on hook, insert your hook into the next stitch and pull the green yarn through. Whatever color loop this is the color you're going to grab and pull through the stitch. Now, because you have your two green loops, you need to finish the stitch with the next color. So you're going to grab the white and you're just yarn over the hook and pull that white through those two green loops. Okay, one more time and then you can finish your round. White loop on hook, so insert it into the next stitch and grab your white yarn. Yarn over the hook and pull it through the stitch. You have two white loops on your hook. You're going to finish with the next color. Yarn over the hook with the green and pull through the two white loops. And that is how it's done. So go ahead and work alternating your colors. You're going to be working one single crochet into each stitch around until you get to this last stitch. So do not work in this last stitch. We need to put two single crochet in this stitch. So just go ahead and work across to that last stitch and I'll meet you there and we'll finish the round. I'm over at the end of round 4 and I stopped right before I did the last stitch here in this last double crochet. And the reason being is, if you look, the green stitch is here, but if I do the next stitch, it'll be white. So we'll have white against white. So what we need to do is we need to do two stitches here. We're going to do a white stitch next, and then we're going to do a green stitch beside it so the pattern ends here. So you end with a green stitch against the white. So let's go ahead and work our last two stitches. At this point my thread is really twisted. White loop on the hook, we're going to insert into the top of that last double crochet. We're going to grab that white yarn and pull it through. We have our two white loops on the hook. Now we're going to grab that green or whatever accent color you're using, and we're going to pull the green through the two loops on the hook. And like I said, you do not want white against white, so we're going to add one more stitch in there and make it green so the pattern ends white, green, white, green, white, green. So green loop on the hook, we're going to insert our hook into that top of that same last double crochet. We're going to grab that green and we're going to yarn over the hook and pull it through that stitch. So now we have 2 green loops on the hook. We're going to finish that last stitch with our white. So yarn over the hook with the white and you pull it through those 2 green loops. That finishes the stitch and it matches your color to finish your round. So now we're going to go over here and you're going to look for the top of your white stitch, which is here. You're going to ignore this joining bar, as I call it. That was your beginning chain 1, and this is the top of your beginning single crochet. So go underneath those 2 loops of that single crochet. You're just going to grab the white yarn, yarn over the hook, and pull it through all loops on the hook. You just joined your round, and we're going to fasten off, and you just made your peppermint twist. Of course, the green should be called spearmint. So I'm just going to fasten off both colors. I'm going to just grab this white and fasten that off, and then pull that down. And then I will weave my ends. The green is back here. That will be weaved in and out through the back in order to secure that. And you just finished your Christmas coaster. And that's what it should look like. That's the front. That's the back. You'll go back and weave in these ends. And there you go. So now we're going to move on to the dish scrubber. So I'll be right back to tell you how to do the dish scrubber. Okay, our coasters are finished. Here's our green one. Here's our red one. So now to make the dish scrubby, what I like about this pattern is when I started it, this originally, the center come off my Christmas dishcloth, and I just wanted to make a coaster. Well, then after I made the coaster, I thought, boy, this would really be pretty as like a little dish scrubber. Now it's not real scratchy like, you know, the netting, but they still make nice little dish scrubbers out of the cotton yarn if you want to make dish scrubbers. So this is the coaster, and then all I did to make the dish scrubber is you're going to make 2 coasters. So I went ahead, now this is the red and white one finished. So all we're doing to make the dish scrubber is we're putting 2 together. This is the back, this is the front, but we're just taking and putting a little white chain 1 slip stitch border around it to join them together, and it makes a double-sided dish scrubby. Very cute. So you have the coaster, and let me grab my other green one here. So you're going to do the same thing you did for the coaster. So you're going to go ahead and make 2 more. So when you get those 2 made, you're going to take the right side of the one coaster. That's the wrong side. This is the right side. That will be facing you. And then you're going to take the other coaster and you're going to flip it to the wrong side. So you're going to put the wrong sides together. And then the right sides will be facing out. This right side will be facing you. The other right side will be facing in the opposite direction. And to put these together, what we're going to do, see if I can show you here. If you look closely, let me grab my hook. I go into this back loop on the front, and then it's like it's the back loop. Like if you turn it, it's the back loop, but it's actually the front loop here. So when you match these stitches together, you're going to go in this back loop. I'm trying to look at the monitor and do this without actually looking at the dish scrubby. And then you're going to go in this front loop, which is actually the back loop of the back coaster. And you're going to join them in that manner. And the reason being is if you see the stitch right here, that is this stitch right here. It adds like a little edging stitch. I think you can see it. It's right here. So when you go in the back loop, it creates that another little edging stitch on top of that. It just makes a nice finish. If you go into both loops, it doesn't look as nice. I just really like that edging there. Okay, so you'll probably have to pause the video and then go get your other two coasters made. We're going to begin, so grab your white. The other thing I did want to say is, I'm just going to grab this here real quick before I get started. I was messing around with this one, and if you do not like the idea having to hold those two strands together and do each stitch in a separate color, if you found, like, if you want to make these for Christmas, or like this is, I was thinking of fall, but if you got the Christmas variegated yarn, you wouldn't have to use two strands. You could do one, and this one I just did a single crochet. I didn't use double strands, and I didn't put white in it. I just used the variegated as it come off the skein. This one I used the white and green, the two different colors, but because this variegated had so many colors in it, I just was messing around and did it that way. So that looks nice if you don't want to deal with those two colors. I think it looks just as nice, and that's just a single crochet around, no messing with two different colors and trying to pull the right color through. Okay, so our coaster, let's join them together as I showed you. You're going to match up the colors, white with white, green with green. It really helps when you're working around, so at least you know you're getting in the right stitch. So you're going to insert your hook into that back loop right here. There's your front, there's your back. Now, this is the wrong, the back side, so that's classified as the front loop, and that's classified as the back. So it's actually the front loop when you're coming this way, but it's still the back loop. I don't even know how to explain it, but that's how you do it. You're going to grab your white. Let me see if I can find my end. Oops, I got blurry. I leave about a 3-inch length, and later on you can just put it in here and try to work your stitches over it, or you can weave it in when you're all done right through the center of the Dish Scrubby. So go ahead and yarn over the hook and pull it through those loops, those stitches. You're going to chain one. You're going to insert into the back loop and through to the back piece, match that green up. I gotta get that piece of yarn out of there. You're going to come over here and go in that loop. It's the back loop, but it's the first one facing you. And you're just going to slip stitch, yarn over the hook, and pull through all loops in your hook. I should have tightened that up a little bit more. So we're going to repeat this method all the way around. I'm going to do it a couple more times because I keep getting sidetracked and off the topic. So match the colors up, go through that back loop, and that's creating your ridge stitch here, plus it's creating your top edging. You're going to go into that first loop of the same color, yarn over the hook, and bring it through all loops on hook. You're just working a slip stitch. I'm going to just hold that back and keep it out of my way so you can see better. Yarn over, chain one. You're going to go into your next color, into the back loop of the first top piece, and into that first loop on the back of the same color. So yarn over the hook and pull it through all loops on the hook. Chain one, insert it into the back loop of the next stitch and the first loop of the back piece. Yarn over the hook and pull it through all loops on the hook. Chain one, insert it into the back loop of the next color in the next stitch and into the first loop of the piece on the back of your back piece. Yarn over the hook and pull it through all loops on your hook. You can see it's starting to create this edging stitch here. So let's do 1 or 2 more. You're going to chain 1. You're going to insert into the back loop of the next stitch and into the first loop of the stitch on the back, matching stitch for stitch as you go around. Yarn over the hook and pull through all loops on the hook. Chain 1, insert your hook into the next stitch in the back loop only and into the first loop of the matching piece of the back. Yarn over the hook and pull through all loops on hook. So go ahead and continue around in that manner. I will meet you here at this green stitch and we will finish off our dish scrubby. So I'll be right back. I'm almost at the end of round 5 and I worked over, this is your last stitch. We started in the beginning white stitch. So we're going to end in the green stitch here for our last stitch. So you're going to go ahead and chain 1. You're going to slip stitch in that back loop and the first loop of the back piece. Yarn over the hook and pull through all loops on the hook. So to end this round, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to chain 1 and then we're going to slip stitch into this first slip stitch that we made when we started the round. So chain 1, go into this slip stitch, yarn over the hook and pull it through all loops on the hook. Then I'm just going to fasten off my work. Pull that down. I take my yarn needle and what I do is I just flip it on the back. The back and the front is identical because you have right sides facing on both sides, but because my knot is on the front side, I flip it over to the back so I can pull that over so you can't see it. And then I just stick my yarn needle down and go in between these stitches here, and then I just come down here farther into these stitches, however many stitches you want to go into. And then I just, about that far is fine. And then I just pull that down a little, pull my needle off. That was my starting one my starting thread that I worked over. So I'll just snip this off, making sure you don't snip into your stitches. And I snip the one that I weaved in, my ends that I weaved in, snip kind of close, but don't snip your stitches. And there you made a dish scrubby, which are 2 coasters put together with right sides facing out, and then you just work your little chain 1 slip stitch edging. There's our red, there's our white, and if you want to use another color, go ahead and make them for fall. Beautiful. These are excellent for the craft shows. They're so colorful. You can do them in any color for any kitchen. You could do them in blues, browns, yellows, whatever color, and the fall colors are gorgeous. October's coming up. A lot of fall craft shows. So I'm showing you the samples that I have made. The red, which I call the Peppermint Twist. The green you can call Spearmint Twist. Great craft show favorites. The shows are coming up. Get started now and you can whip these up very quickly and have a really nice, bright, eye-popping craft show with these patterns. And again, don't be afraid to put those colors in for people who don't want the Christmas ones. You can add the variegated colors and they're really an excellent color. So thanks for stopping by. I hope you liked this video on the coasters and the scrubbies. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you, and as always, have fun crocheting.